Hey audience, once again, this is Farid Premani with Ignite the Spark, and our topic for today is Alzheimer's awareness. As our name suggests, it's Ignite the Spark. So every time we try to bring in mentors and real life heroes, but these two gentlemen who we interviewed today, Dr. Suleiman Lalani, who is the brand ambassador for Alzheimer Association, and now we have Dr. Richard Albine, who is the CEO, Chief Executive of Alzheimer's Association. They are doing a wonderful walk and event. So let me try to bring him for quick next 10-minute talk, and he'll be sharing about the awareness. Dr. Suleiman earlier spoke about pros and cons, do's and diagnostics about this disease, and we learn from him more about the what are the plans like for the Alzheimer. So let me try to invite Dr. Richard Albine. So how are you doing, Dr. Richard?
I'm great, thank you. I appreciate your inviting me on and giving us a chance to talk a little bit about the Alzheimer's Association
Sure,
and what we do. So the Alzheimer's Association is we're the largest nonprofit organization addressing Alzheimer's disease in the United States. We're actually the largest in the world. For folks in the United States, we provide one part of our mission is to support research to try and find better treatments and ultimately a cure for Alzheimer's. And so we do that by directly funding Alzheimer's research. In the state of Texas, we've funded about $4 million in Alzheimer's research.
Wow.
Across the world, we've funded about $400 million in Alzheimer's research.
That's huge.
So, so we're usually at the cutting edge of what's happening in Alzheimer's research, and we try and move the understanding forward and encourage researchers to get involved with research and then to apply for funding from their own government. So another part of what we do is to advocate for more funding for Alzheimer's research with the federal government. So we work with the legislature and encourage them to fund the National Institutes of Health at a higher level. Our goal is that annually the federal government will fund $2 billion in Alzheimer's research each year. When President Trump signs the next budget, we hope that he signs an increase that will bring us to $1.8 billion a year. So we're not quite there, but we're hoping to get there.
That's a huge ask, but I know the way you are pitching it and the way it is getting important, like Dr. Suleiman was also sharing the numbers. I think you can make it in the history, but I know $1.8 billion is a big ask, and it would be very difficult for you guys and the team to get it.
Yes, we've been increasing, so we've been pretty actively working with Congress over the last many years, and over the last few years we've had significant increases in federal funding. So we're right now at about 1.4 billion, and we're hoping that President Trump will sign legislation that will increase it by about 400 million. Which, as I say, still falls short of the 2 billion goal, but it gets us closer. Right. So that's another part, is investment in research, because we know that research will ultimately help us understand the disease and find the kinds of treatments that are needed.
Right.
In the meantime, the Alzheimer's Association supports people affected by the disease. So we work directly with people suffering from Alzheimer's and other dementias, and then we work with the caregivers, so those families who often suffer as well, because there are a lot of challenges that they have. They end up becoming very isolated from their families and their communities. So we work with them to try and help them with communication and engage them in activities. And then we work with professionals, so we provide training for professionals, healthcare professionals like physicians, nurses, social workers, as well as another important area is for emergency responders, police, fire, ambulance, so that when they respond to some kind of issue that they are dealing with in the community, that they can recognize that the person who they're dealing with has Alzheimer's or related dementia and then behave appropriately. So the example that Dr. Lalani mentioned, where someone who had Alzheimer's was accused of shoplifting, you would behave differently if what you saw was a person not understanding that they were stealing. You would
Right.
respond differently than if they were a thief and they were trying to sneak out with some valuable item. So we wouldn't want a policeman to draw a weapon and start screaming at the person to get on the floor, because they may not follow those instructions if what they're actually suffering from is Alzheimer's or some other form of dementia. So we work with those emergency responders. For people in the community, no matter where they are in America, we have an 800 number that people can call, 800-272-3900.
Yeah.
If they call that number, no matter
Do you
what
mind
time of
repeating that
day
again?
or,
Do you
yeah,
mind repeating that again?
sure, 800-272-3900.
Okay.
They can call that number day or night. It's 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, answered by a live person who works for the Alzheimer's Association and is an expert in the disease. And they can help them talk about community resources in their community, also help them with behavioral issues that they may be dealing with. Maybe the person is aggressive or not communicative, or some challenge, and so they can help them think through strategies that they would be able to use to work with their loved one with Alzheimer's.
Sure. So
If
Dr.
they
Richard,
call
let's
that,
move towards that
yeah,
event which is happening. So if you can tell some audience
sure,
about that.
sure. So in Fort Bend County, we have a Walk to End Alzheimer's, which is the largest awareness raising and fundraising event that we will have in Fort Bend County. And
Okay.
it's October 28th at the University of Houston Sugarland campus. And they can go to alz.org/walk and find information about that walk. And we'd love for them to register in advance, form a team, and they can just come out on Saturday morning, October 28th, and walk in the walk and learn more about the disease. If they are not in Fort Bend County and they're somewhere else in the Houston area, we also have a Walk to End Alzheimer's on Sunday, November 19th in Houston at the University of Houston Central Campus. And so that's Sunday, November 19th, University of Houston. And again, they can learn more about that by going to alz.org/walk. And if they want to learn anything about Alzheimer's disease or need resources, they can just go to alz.org and they'll be able to find information about the disease and about a chapter in whatever community they are across the United States.
Perfect, perfect. No, thank you, Dr. Richard, Dr. Suleiman. It was really wonderful learning from both of you, especially about a disease which is not much explored yet, but the level of research and the Congress level decision making that you both are into, it's I think phenomenally changing the awareness. And guys, please do attend October 28th at University of Houston Sugarland campus, and then November 19th. And can you repeat the numbers and the websites again, Dr. Richard, if you don't mind?
Sure. So the 800 number is 800-272-3900, 800-272-3900, and our website is alz.org. And if they want to learn about walk, it's alz.org/walk.
Thank you, Dr. Richard. Since usually our show is more on the mentorship talk and the entrepreneurial spirit, I know leading such a big organization, you are a big mentor, trying to gel everyone together for a cause. So any personal level of message or your philosophy you would want to share with the audience listening to you right now?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm very excited that we're speaking to young people who are really getting started in their careers and thinking about how to not only, of course, think about their own personal wealth and impact, but also think about serving their community. And we know that Alzheimer's disease affects about 1 in 3 seniors. So almost everyone we know has a loved one or a close family or friend who's dealing with Alzheimer's. And so there's an opportunity to get involved. We're always looking for volunteers. And so people can get involved with us and help become an ambassador for us and help raise awareness in the communities where they live. There are other organizations as well. So I would say becoming part of the community, not only to build your own business, but one way to build a business is to give back to the community and engage people in the community through service. And so I encourage people who are building their own business to also think about how to build the community they're involved with at the same time.
Perfect. Thank you, Richard. It was really nice meeting you. Hats off to the work that you both are doing. And guys, let's join for this great cause, October 28th, Sugarland University of Houston campus. And dial the number, visit the website, and support more, network more to grow your business. Thank you, Dr. Richard. It was a wonderful talking to you, really learning from both of you, and all the very best for your event and the cause.
Thanks so much. I appreciate being included.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Bye.
Hi folks, this is Farid Premani again today with Ignite the Spark, and our featured mentors for today are two gentlemen who are highly experienced and thought-provoking, and we'll be talking today about Alzheimer's disease and Alzheimer Association, how these two gentlemen are trying to make a difference. So for everyone, I know it's a very common disease these days, but just some facts and figures. Alzheimer is a disease which destroys the memory functions and mental disorders, and there are like 3 million cases every year reported in US, and out of those 3 million cases, it's like one case diagnosed in every 66 seconds. So I would like to invite Dr. Richard Elvine, who is CEO of Alzheimer's Association, and Dr. Suleiman Lalani, who is a board member and brand ambassador, to be with me on this 15-minute mentorship talk. And as our name suggests, it's Ignite the Spark. So it's about making difference in someone's life. So let's see what these gentlemen are trying to do. Let me try to add them. So for the first time, we are trying to broadcast 2 mentors in a day, and let's see how it works. Dr. Suleiman Lalani. Hey, Dr. Suleiman, how you doing?
Hi, Farid. How are you?
Good, good.
Good morning. You're looking bright and fine.
Really? Slightly tired of traveling. Just came back this morning, but thanks for the compliment. How you doing? How's everything?
Doing all right. Doing all right.
Good. Let me try to add also Dr. Richard Elvine, and then we'll start the conversation. Okay. I've sent him the invite. Meanwhile, he joins in. I was telling audience about, our subject, how it coincides with the names, as the name suggests, Ignite the Spark. So these two mentors for today, Dr. Suleiman and Dr. Richard Elvine, they are like mentors trying to eradicate Alzheimer. Dr. Suleiman is like the brand ambassador, and Dr. Richard is CEO of Alzheimer's Association. So we are trying to do broadcast for the first time, adding 2 gentlemen. Let's see how it works, Dr. Suleiman. But technology is sometimes a problem, right? So
that's true. That happens, and by the time Richard comes on the call,
right.
So actually, Alzheimer's Association is a national organization with the local chapters around.
Mm-hmm.
So I am the ambassador to U.S. Congress with the Alzheimer's Association. So part of my job was to take the Alzheimer's issues and talk to the congressmen and then see where the Congress stands and how the funding and research can happen. So we go to the Washington. We have gone in Austin also to meet with our local Congress people, and then went on to Washington to meet other people, and then bring the bipartisan approach that we need to do. And this is one of the issues which I am very glad to say that both the parties agree upon.
Oh, wow.
A few months back, we had an Alzheimer's conference co-hosted by Baylor College in Houston, and we had 5 congressmen under one roof. which is not likely to happen outside of the Washington, D.C. And five of them, hands in hand, Republican and Democratic, they both all agreed upon and promised that they will work together and help us get the funding and help us raise the awareness. So
Excellent.
that's one part of the role that we do. I'm also a board member for the Alzheimer's, and as you are aware that I am a primary care geriatrician, so I see a lot of elderly people in my daily life. And Alzheimer's is one of the passion and interest that kind of ignites me itself. So I take special interest in that part. I want to appreciate and thank Fareed that you're taking us today. Is your
Sure.
Ignite the Spark. So we're getting a little twist out here. We are not going to talk about any entrepreneurial tips, nor are we going to talk about leadership. But I'm going to give one pearl out today for life, which is that people who are socialized, do service, and volunteer actually live a healthy, happy, and longer life. So thank you for doing this. Is Richard on board?
I have tried to send Richard request twice, but it looks like either it got declined once or he's finding some difficulty because I switched off my phone on the airplane mode, so there is no call distortion at the back. Do you mind just texting him quickly and checking how's it going with him?
So if I use my phone, would I be off the Facebook, or I can do both together? Oh,
No.
Richard says I'm here.
Oh, he's here. Okay.
I see one of those
Right.
comments down there.
I can see the text. Let me try to add Richard again. Uh, Richard, do you mind sending an invite again to be part of this thing? Because I've sent the invite twice. Invite to broadcast. Okay, I have added him again. Let's see how it works.
Okay, so actually, just since we only have limited time, let me quickly say what Alzheimer's is and why we want to create awareness. And when Richard comes on board, he can talk about the various activities of the Alzheimer's Association and events that we do to raise awareness. One of the events which is coming up is Alzheimer's Walk. It's happening in Houston on November 19th and is happening in Sugarland, Fort Bend Alzheimer's Walk, which will be October 28th, coming Saturday. Halloween costume, a lot of fun family things that happens. So essentially, Alzheimer's is as the word says, dementia. Dementia, is a Latin word. Des means away, and mens means brain. So away from the brain, essentially what it is. And as you had talked earlier while you started the introduction, Alzheimer's disease actually, is a broader spectrum. What is the dementia? And my example would be like when we say somebody has pneumonia. So pneumonia is a broader picture. Then we go describe it's a bacterial pneumonia, it's a viral pneumonia, what kind of it is. So dementia is a syndrome which destroys the brain cells, causing cognitive and memory impairment and inability to learn or retain new things. And then when we subdivide different types of dementia, Alzheimer's takes the biggest bucket. About 50 to 70% of the cases are Alzheimer's disease. Then there's about 20% would be vascular dementia or mixed dementia, which is secondary causing from the stroke and things like that. Then we have a smaller percentage, what we call frontotemporal, CKD, other rare PSPs and other diseases that happens. Also, dementia has been caused by head trauma. So you'll see now a lot of awareness that happened with football players and, boxing and things like that. There are some advocates saying that this is not human, not to play like that. So, trauma that creates that things too. What are the risk factors to have the disease? I jokingly say the biggest risk factor is to having a brain. If you have a brain, then you will have the disease.
Right.
As simple as that. And then the second factor would be is age. Generally, we see dementia in the elderly. It's a disease of the old age. But it's not the normal process part of aging. We generally see 5% of people at the age of 65 have some kind of dementia. It doubles itself every 5 years. So by the age of 85, it's 50%, 1 in 2. And you can see with the life expectancy and longevity which is going on, this is going to become crisis. I don't have the statistics in front of me, but we had spent, I think, This, as of 2017, is 225 million or something like that is the cost. Billion, billion is
My
in the
God.
cost just to care for dementia in USA,
My
and
God.
the
It's like half the
expectation.
technology innovation budget.
Yes, and the expectation is by 2050 it will cross $1 trillion. So we really have to do something about this disease, and we really need to create awareness so people can be aware of it, that what has been happening, and we need to spend some serious time and effort and money into this research. That's where our Alzheimer's is very active with U.S. government to start funding. If you look at pharmaceutical industries, we are very behind in this disease, in new innovation and production. I mean, there are people who are doing productions, but still nothing new has come to the market. Last medicine that has come to the market was in 2003. So almost 14, 15 years have come by and no new medication has come. If you look at the other chronic problems like cancer, HIV disease, things of that, the graph is coming down. We have more innovation, new techniques, new medications, and mortality, morbidity is coming down with all of those. People actually are living normal life. You see a T-shirt people wear, "I'm a cancer survivor," or people suffering from HIV disease is now living a normal life, but we
Mm.
don't have any Alzheimer's survivor yet. So
Right.
we need to do some more research. We need to make sure that we get the cure. We find the things into this matter.
Right. Obviously, since
So
you're growing
that's
in
where
America now, the results are not that fascinating, but the research and R&D mode is quite active. I'm trying to add Richard, and I think he's also accepting our invite, but I think Facebook feature can only add one user at a time for broadcast. So what we'll do is, Dr. Suleiman, once we are done with you, I'll also take Richard on call, and we'll continue some of the questions so that you both can, chime in one by one. I think it's a
yeah, I
limitation at the
think yeah, that's a great idea. So yeah,
right. So you
I
continue.
can drop out and you can.
We'll slightly extend this instead of 15 minutes to maybe 25 minutes, and we'll just break it in between two. Yeah. So please continue. You were really sharing valuable. Where do we start, Dr. Suleiman, right now in terms of the cure which has been researched out for this massive
So
disease?
there's a lot of new excitement, innovation has been coming out. I mean, we now have almost refined our instruments for diagnosis that we can do. We have a PET scan where we can actually look into the brain cells, the pathology of it, that we can find out
Mm.
what it is. So we know how it happens now more clearly than we knew before,
Okay.
and what causes it. But how it happens and what is the actual cause is
Mhm.
still uncertain in Alzheimer's that is happening. But to give you the perspective, for example, now there are two studies that were going on simultaneously. One was the smell test. The university people came out with the idea, and they had certain smell test, and they tested people over the period of years, and people who failed actually had showed more progression towards going towards Alzheimer's. The
Okay.
other study was exciting, was optic nerve fiber thickness. So people who had the eye exam, retina exam, and had the optic nerve thickness more than what it is generally what we call normal, had
Mm.
more propensity to develop Alzheimer's. So look at it, if people go for eye check every year, for cataract check and all that, and if the ophthalmologist sees, oh, there is a little thickness here, I don't see it, let's go to a geriatrician or a
Mm.
neurologist to further workup. So how
Mm.
screening can be fast. So there are some exciting, innovating ideas are coming out outside of the box. Besides that, when we see it, there are some batteries of tests that we do. And one of the talks we do is the 10 warning signs, which are, very common. For example, a few months back, I had a person contacting my office that his dad has been picked up for shoplifting. And the poor guy was developing early dementia. So he was not actually stealing things from the store. He picked up and kind of, like a regular routine, we started walking off, and the alarm went off and the police came. So, these are normal, regular people who have go through these crises
So
that
what is
happens.
Dr. Suleiman earliest age? Like, is it spread across all the ages, or does it get triggers after a certain age? Like, what does the research suggest right now?
So generally, you will see people in the older age. As I said, 5% of the people over the age of 65 will have some kind of dementia, and it doubles itself every 5 years. So the older we get, the more chances of having some kind of dementia out there. But there is a small subgroup where we see Alzheimer's in a very younger age, as young as 30, 40 years of people too, but they have genetic predisposition. And then what we call is a definite gene that they have. So without going more in medical jargon, but if you have that unfortunate gene,
Okay.
then you definitely will have that. Also, the first degree relatives of the Alzheimer's have four times more chance of developing that too. So if somebody's parent has it, there is some chance. But again, as the nature plays its own course, so we have some, and then there are some which are suspected gene. You have it, you may or may not do that. So a lot of time before we had it like ApoE4, ApoE1, 2, 3 gene that had come out. ApoE4, if you have from your father and from your mother, there is a chance that you may get it. But again, there are some fortunate people who have ApoE4 from both the sides and didn't get it. So
is
that's
there
why
any
we don't.
trigger for the audience? Because I see a lot of viewers getting increased because dementia. So what I was thinking was we'll talk with you, learning more about Alzheimer research, and we'll invite then Dr. Richard to share more about the event so that we segregate in that way. But I got a tweet, Dr. Suleiman, they were asking, is there any trigger that could, this suppressed gene can get activated? Like, are there any pros and cons, do's and don'ts, which you should just realize or try to avoid, just in order for this not to get
So there are actually first okay, let me tell you how we can probably prevent some of it. So we all know that we have trillion cells in our brain, and not all the cells we use it. So the more we use it, is better it is. There was one very good study done on the life of nuns, and after they passed away, they donated their brain and they did the biopsy on it. So Dr. Snowden, I think is his name, and the book is called Aging with Grace. He actually studied nuns throughout their life, and then he studied the brain after they passed away. So what he was looking into is the nuns who were doing domiciliary care were much more affected than the nuns who were in more administrative or teaching field.
Okay.
So he looked into like what is going on. And so he found out that obviously the better the education, the better is your chances of doing that, of surviving this disease.
Okay.
So one of the factors that came in was is education. So more you use your brain, the more you utilize, the more learning you do is one of the preventive effect that happens on that side. Then he looked into that, okay, out of those teachers, there are some teachers who are affected and the others are not. So what it could be then? So then he looked into that, he went back into the younger years of the nun when they actually had to join the convent, they have to write an application. So he looked into that, the girls in the younger years who wrote in a complex English application were better off than the one who wrote with very simple sentences.
Okay.
Then he looked into the children who were taught more than one language in their younger childhood did better than the one who had only one language. Then he further did which we do with studies now with our babies and youngers, that the music, classical music, and more reading to the baby, even in pregnancy, what we are saying, actually he proved that the girls who were read while their mothers read while they were pregnant did better than the other ones. So more education, more early education. We also know now that the brain of a child is like a sponge until early years. So that's where ECDC and things do come into play, that we need to utilize that, and that sponge, we need to see
I
how
was
much
hearing
they will
from
absorb.
someone on the yesterday's call that our brain gets developed in a pregnant woman up to like 25%. So whatever mother contributes, whatever she reads, whatever she learns, it's like 20%, 25% contribution goes to the developing baby.
It certainly is true. I don't know exactly the numbers, but it certainly is a fact that yes, it does affect.
Yeah.
So out of that, doing the education part, so the next common then factor that was looked into was the nuns who actually eat, everybody gets a buffet style, go to the cafeteria and eat, right? Then he looked into who puts what in their plate. So things are available to eat. Somebody who was eating a healthier diet actually did better off than the one who's picking up everything. Then he looked into the free time, that nuns have free time available. But somebody who's playing ping pong, or while somebody is reading newspaper, while somebody is going sleep and doing what? So doing activity actually proved out that it's more preventive than the other. So
So
those
the
are smaller
insight,
things.
what is the insight? If we take it in a way that the more active you are, the less chances are that you will be struck by Alzheimer or dementia. Is that how we
So
how
I would say that the healthy, active lifestyle,
okay.
eat right, exercise,
Healthy lifestyle, eat right, exercise,
and then keep your brain active.
okay.
So keep learning, which is very important, because more connections we will make. We have more chances of some of the cells which are damaged. We have other connection makes. The God has created brain as such a complex structure. The neuron, that the brain cell, it not only connects one cell to one cell. It connects one cell connects to numerous other cells. So,
Right.
what happens in Alzheimer's is, if you may have heard about plaques and tangles, it's kind of a protein that accumulates, amyloid protein that accumulates around the cell fibers, and it disturbs the connections of the cell. And tau, or tangles, is another protein fiber that is inside the cell that disturb the nutrition of the cell and kills the cells.
Okay.
So the Alzheimer's is like, when the connections are not proper, that's where the information cannot transfer. So if you have made parallel connections, then you certainly will work part. It's just like a heart disease. Somebody who has a heart blood vessel to the heart which is blocked, suddenly you have a heart attack. But if you have, over the period of time, you have developed little, what we call, capillaries and secondary circulation to the heart, then like the main freeway is clogged. You drive your car from the side lanes and the smaller lanes and
Right.
shortcuts.
You take the
So that's
alternate
what it
short,
is.
right.
Yeah, so that's what Alzheimer's, if it is affected, and you have other options available, you can use that. So interesting point to that matter was, when these nuns who passed away, and the brain was sent for pathology, pathologists would not know the history of the nun. So sometime he will send the report, Alzheimer's brain. And here Dr. Snowden will say, oh no, this was very active and alert while she died. This does not match the connection. And that's where they found out that people may have some brain in their mind, some tangles, and affected by Alzheimer's, but if they have other parallel things available, they're still able to function. So those were the brains. Then we found out that not only had Alzheimer's, but also had a heart problem, probably vascular
Okay.
dementia. Part of those other cells were affected with diabetes and other things.
So sometimes it's
So
like a conglomerate. Dr. Suleiman, I will try to cut it short now. I'm sorry, because we have to take Dr. Richard, and I know you're so passionate about it, the level I really wanted to learn more from you. But how would you try to conclude it, like for someone, and then we jump to
So let me just, let me, in 2 minutes, let me do the conclusion that I want people to be aware of the warning signs. If
right.
you find some of these signs in your loved one, in your neighbor, in
Yeah,
the
that's
stranger or somebody,
cool to
you
know.
may be able to help. So what I would say is, none of these are the diagnostic, but this could raise your antenna up. Number one, if you find somebody who is now becoming more forgetful, unable to do things which he was able to do before,
Okay.
forgetting the dates, forgetting the appointments, that if you find this person who was very sharp, always used to be on time to come on the meeting, but now he's lagging behind,
Like,
he forgot, he skipped the appointment. So that could be one. Number two, challenges in planning simple events. Somebody who is an executive but now cannot arrange an event for dinner for 10 people at his home. He gets crisis. Somebody who is difficult to do familiar tasks. So grandma was very popular for baking cakes. Everybody would say, oh, we need to have her cake. Now her cake does not have that much sugar, or, does not taste right.
okay.
So somebody who was expert and familiar doing what to do is not able to do that now. Next would be they're confused with day and night. Uh, what day is today, what date of the month and whatnot. Difficulty finding words. They may be able to say, for example, pen. They may see that this is an instrument that you use to write, but it is called pen does not come to their mind. So the inability to name the object.
Links get broken, in the mind. You cannot associate the pictures to the right words. Okay.
Right. So that would be it. That they cannot say that part. The another one would be misplacing things. And we, generally and all of these happens to regular normal people too, right? For example, oftentimes we misplace things. Oh, I forgot where I kept my keys. But the key part is that we are able, when we sit down and think, we can retrace it. Okay. And we find it. So, we are living in this society which is fast paced, multitasking, a lot of things happening. At times we forget where did we park our car in the parking lot in the airport or at the game event. So I jokingly say that if you forget which level did you park, which is okay. But if you forget that you came in your own car, then come see me. Then that's the problem.
Okay.
And then another point would be poor judgment. I mean, they will be, buying things which are not needed. Sometimes they will go on the infomercial on the midnight TV and they're buying things out. Sometimes they forget to pay their bills and the utilities are disconnected. That's where the children comes to the light that, oh, what happened, Dad? You have not paid bill for 3 months now. So poor judgment that happens. So these are some of those things that keep in mind. That forgetfulness, inability to do familiar tasks, poor judgment, disorientation of time and event. Also, one would be the mood and behavior. Somebody who's very social and now suddenly becomes very angry and agitated, or vice versa. So some of these things that you see in your colleagues, in your loved ones, that should raise your antenna up so you can bring it to the medical provider. Because some of those things are curable, they are not dementia, and some may lead to it, and we can make the final diagnosis. So Farid, thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. And thank you for the valuable
advice.
We really learned from you because dementia, Alzheimer is getting so common, especially with the elder ones in the family. But the way you elaborated it, we slightly stretched the time, but it was very much important because nobody explained us in the way that you did. So thank you, Dr. Suleiman. Really appreciate that. I'll try to, if you can just quit the broadcast at your end, maybe I'll try to put Richard, otherwise I'll start the call from again so that he can share more about the event. But thank you and good luck for the cause you both are working for. Thank you, Dr. Suleiman.
Thank you. So how do I just disconnect?
Maybe try to disconnect, yeah, maybe if in a way it helps.
Okay, let me do that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Suleiman. I think if you just try to disconnect your Facebook for a minute, it might work. Okay. Hey, Dr. Richard, we are trying to invite you to the call. So, audience, this was what we heard from Dr. Suleiman and Dr. Richard, who is CEO of Alzheimer's Association, about the event they are doing to bring Alzheimer awareness. There is a lot of fun, goodies, the Halloween celebration. So, they are conglomerating the awareness with the cause, what's going on. It's like 3 million cases diagnosed every year in US, and every 66 seconds there is a case diagnosed. So, hey, Dr. Richard, are you with us here?
I'm here. The screen looks blank, but I am here.
The screen looks blank because it's still showing Dr. Suleiman's photo. How are you doing?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good, good. Somehow I think it's a new Facebook Live feature, but still it's not working very perfectly well. I think now it should show your. I think it should work now. Okay, perfect. Here we go. We can see your icon, but we're not able to see the video.
Yeah.
Is your video somehow turned off or?
I don't know. I have a little box in the corner.
Right.
Let's see.
Are you using your phone to do that?
I'm using my phone.
Okay. let's do one thing. Okay, let me try one more time, re-inviting you back. Otherwise, we'll restart the call and continue the subject.
So I'm here again.
You're here again, but your video is showing as blank.
Yeah.
And I want audience also to see your charming face while we both are talking. So let me just close this call and then start another one as phase two, where we'll talk more about the Alzheimer's Association event and walk which is coming. So let me restart the event again. Thank you, folks, for
Okay.
watching first phase, and we'll be starting second phase in next 30 seconds. Thank you.